again. Like before, we have Mr. Tapestry on the couch with us today, and we're going to talk to him a little bit, which I'm very excited about because on the show we usually have bands, musicians. Every once in a while I have an actor. We've had painters before, but you're our first poet. Which, honestly, like, as far...
And thank you for having me on the show, by the way.
Well, I don't want to sound...
Quite flattered, actually.
Well, I'm flattered that you're here because I've been going back to poetry, not religiously, but I started watching the local poets probably around 1997, 98.
Okay.
When I was in high school, and we would go out to Galileo's on open mic night, and drink a lot of coffee and watch the poets. I don't know if I ever saw you way back then.
I was hosting back then, so you saw me.
Probably. But that being said, later on we go there as an adult, and that's one of the first times I saw you perform, and I don't want to talk bad about any other poets in town, but you're far and away most entertaining. Let's hear a little bit of history about Tap, and then how you came into knowing that this is how you were going to express yourself.
Well, when I moved to Oklahoma City so many years ago, a couple decades at least almost, I was Gulf War veteran, post-war, basically had a head full of landmines that I was tiptoeing. My brain was a minefield. I was tiptoeing through it, trying to avoid the things, and really just not adjusting well to... I don't know what was left of me, and I was trying to figure that out, because when I was in the war, I realized I had the epiphany in the desert that, this was the only thing I'm good at, and I can't do this anymore. So I spent a long time going, I don't know what the hell I can do anymore, and still quantify myself as alive. I could go through the motions as a human being, and many people do, and I pass no judgments on that, but it was I've always been a very emotional person, so it was
Sure.
Part of life is that emotion. And when I got into poetry, when I walked into a poetry reading, I was like, these people are writing, they're
So did you was your first poetry reading? Were you planning on actually doing poetry, or did you just stumble on it as something that you were...
Well, I had done, back when I was in the Army, before I got out, I was stationed at Fort Bragg, North Carolina, and there was a place about an hour up the interstate in Raleigh called the Cup of Joe, a coffee house, and they had a poetry reading / open mic where, people with acoustic guitars would play. And at that point, I was very angry at the Army and, angry at the world and not really knowing how to deal with it. So I would write down these just frenetic, just vitriol-filled, venom-spewing rants about what about the Army is pissing me off this week. And I would just get up there and I would read off this paper about just shit that no one this is a college town, nobody really understood what I was saying, but they just knew I was angry. And I bet you were intimidating. Just launching on shit. And so when I moved here, post-Army, and a friend of mine, I was working at an assembly plant, this guy goes, hey man, they do this spoken word poetry thing at this place called Medina's, which is now a Curious Emporium or something like that.
Greg's Emporium, yeah.
Greg's
I remember
Emporium.
Medina's.
Anyway, that was the first place, and I walked in there, and I was like, yeah, this will be fun. I haven't done this in forever. And I signed up on the list, and the first 6 poets that I saw kind of blew my mind and made me wish I hadn't signed up on the list because I looked at what they were doing and I saw what I had and I went this shit is fucking horrible in comparison. But I made the gut check and I got up there and I did it, and I wanted to hear not only more of what they were saying and how they were expressing themselves, but there was a little part of me that went I got to keep doing this. I don't know, I just kind of felt I'm on to something here, because when I went home, I felt better.
Felt right.
Yeah, I felt better than before.
How honest do you get when you're writing? Do you try to code it, or kind of slightly make it easier pill to swallow, or do you try to go for the most extreme?
Well, being a punk rock kid and punk rock influenced, that was what I took away from what hardcore punk was. You don't sugarcoat. You don't know. It's honesty given with lead pipe cruelty. And
I like that.
I started writing stuff that was way more honest. It was the doing poetry in Oklahoma City in our scene was the first time I ever talked about the war, and tried to talk about it honestly without flag waving or flag burning, just going, this is what it was like for me. Other people have different stories. This is mine. My past drug abuses, don't sugarcoat that. Some of the things, I lived a very checkered past, and I have decided that, and these are the things that keep me up at night. So,
well, if there's any other way to look at it, your art, it makes it worth, in a way, not to say, your experiences. This is what I get from your performances. Is it sucks some of the stuff you've been through, but in a weird way, through your work, the world's a better place for it.
But it kind of became almost, it became therapeutic and kind of a dare. It was kind of, without saying it, I'm going, okay, I'm going to tell you honestly some really fucked up shit that happened to me. But look at me. I'm still here. I'm okay. I just talked about it in front of a crowd of strangers, and that irrational fear everybody has. I wasn't stoned to death. People don't hate me. In fact, if you're looking, people hug me. They buy me beers. That level of honesty is available. We live too much of our lives not being honest enough, I think.
And from my perspective, it's wonderful to see that type of honesty. That's real, and all art is at its best when it is as real as possible and as honest as you can possibly get, whether you're painting or sculpting or even a musician, and for me it was spoken word. It's like I can do my idea of what I think a poet is, or I can do what I use poet as a term because that's the thing that people most easily understand. I like punk rock spoken word. So you're a big fan of even Henry Rollins' new stuff, or you say that?
Well, Henry Rollins was one of the people back in the Army. I would listen to his talking records and go, okay, that's because he never really fucked around. He just straight to it. Right or wrong, this is me. Mm-hmm. I'm not saying I'm right. I'm not saying I'm wrong. I'm saying this is my perspective on said subject.
Right.
Correct me if I need to be corrected. But this is what I see.
It's all about perspective. In other words, I also hear that you're writing a book. Is this a book? Well, real quick, a book. Is this like a collection of poems, or is this actually prose? What is this book?
Well, I was asked by a friend of mine who is starting a small public company. Swimming with Elephants Publishing is the name.
Nice.
And she said, I would really like to publish a book of yours. Would you like? Do you have a collection of poems? And I had this concept in my head for a while, and I said I would kind of like to do a concept that I've been kind of trying to write down, and it's basically about my mental illness, because I'm bipolar, manic depressive, borderline psychotic. I've had this diagnosis for many years in my life. I know what it is, and part of living with it is and I don't take meds for it. I pretty much deal with my brain as an adversary, because I know it's not my friend, and so this is basically the concept of the book is like when Jodie Foster interviewed Hannibal Lecter for the first time in Silence of the Lambs. Well, that's it. I've taken I'm writing from the perspective of my mental illness in that kind of interview.
Okay, so you the conscious tap, and then the internal,
and then the
talking to each other.
Well, it's basically he's going to do most of the talking. But the intro of the book is me setting up for the reader and or audience, because I'll have a stage show to go with it, and then it will be basically kind of like Interview with a Vampire. I'm hoping that it comes out kind of like almost a Screw Tape Letters type of vibe.
That's exactly what I was thinking.
Because that was another influential thing that I wrote. I'm hoping it comes out like that. I don't know how it is.
How far are you into it?
I'm down to the last section because I divided it up into 3. It's the madness talks about childhood. The madness talks about my midlife when I was jumping out of airplanes and shooting people for a living, and now to the end of where I am now, and this whole thing where I have a poem where I talked about my madness, and my madness is in a cage, because I keep it locked in a cage, because you can't let that guy drive.
So we have to wait a little while on that. So in the meantime, where can we see you perform?
In the meantime, every Wednesday night at Sauced on the Paseo, at around 8-ish, 8:30, we have the Red Dirt Home for Wayward Poets open mic that I both host and perform in.
Do you have regulars at that? I mean,
oh yeah, we have regulars and open micers, and it's a hell of a lot of fun. The thing I love about this, and this is the thing that I've loved about our show for the 16 years I've been part of it, is because I find most poetry readings very boring, because they're usually in coffee houses or libraries, and it's quiet. We have a bar, there's noise, there's a skee-ball machine, there's a crowd. It's supposed to be raucous. To me, it's supposed to be raucous and rock and roll and fun. And just, that's what I've always enjoyed. And our show doesn't disappoint in that fashion. We do not treat this like it's a library, like we're in a library or at school. This is a rock and roll show. Only the rock stars are the poets that come up and sign up. 2 poems or 6 minutes, whichever comes first. Everybody that wants to can sign up, and they can get their own 6 minutes.
Not to mention that Sauce has got pretty good food too.
Oh yeah,
so good food, and it is a
food,
good time. I like
good
Sauce.
food, good beers, and yeah, we have a whole lot of fun with that show. So yeah, 8 o'clock every Wednesday.
8 o'clock on Wednesday. So that if you want to check out Tap's work or any of his cohorts, it is a good time. I've done it several times myself, and it is always that raucous kind of. I don't know. There's a vibe to it. Everybody seems to want to be there. Everybody seems to be happy to be there. You're right. Other poetry readings can be kind of. But that one is a blast. It's special.
Oh yeah, I tell the audience and I tell the poets. I'm like, look, people may be talking during this. It's up to you, man. Your audience, your job is to have a good time. Poets, you're supposed to have a good time too. When we're both having a good time, it's a great show.
Indeed. Speaking of which, I have to humbly ask, could you give us a reading? Possibly.
Yes, I could definitely do a poem for you.
Okay, which one are you going to do?
This one is from the years that I was listening to Black Flag. I would guess that's the time frame that this was written. It's called The Corner.
The Corner. All right. Well, take it away, Tap. The Corner by Tapestry. I'll let you take the couch for yourself on this one.
The corner of the room was coated in plastic 3 layers thick, made from 65-gallon lawn care trash bags. Even the chair that sat there had a second skin of plastic and duct tape. We told people it was an art project. Only Jason and I knew the truth. Once a week, this is where I asked the universe a question, using a loaded gun as my microphone. First night I played the game, Jason sat in the room with me, that look crawling across his face like this is one of those junky bets you make while high, yet never intend on following through on. Watches the pregame ritual, the tie-off, the spike set, the fuck yeah methamphetamine rush. Its payload clatters on the table almost harmless. 16, stupid, angry. He sees the random selection, one bullet with lead so soft I could write my last words with it, finding a chamber like it's the only place it ever wanted to be. The blind spin, well-oiled cylinder, flick of the wrist, ending the potentially deadly rotation. Our eyes settle in each other across the room as the front sight cuts my gums and slides into the soft palate. Eye to eye, gaze unblinking as the slack comes off the trigger, and the empty chamber hammer click is the loudest sound I've ever heard. Jason never watched me play after that. Looking back, I realize what it must have been like to watch your best friend prepare for his exit from this world all the way down to the disposal of his corpse. Watch him go upstairs once a week as the only one in the house that knows he might not come down again. That sobering realization in the middle of a party that tonight might literally end in a bang. After 52 weeks, when I came downstairs, he looked me in the eye and said, you really know how to ruin a good high. Then fate played its ugly hand a year later, forcing me to carry his coffin every step to the hearse an empty chamber, hammer click rattling inside of my skull. A lot of people left flowers at Jason's grave. I left a revolver with the hammer sawed off and a bullet with no shell casing. It's the only way I could think of to tell him I'm sorry.